Imagine, if you will, a society in decay. The cities are overcrowded. Every night there's a curfew. Everyone's out of a job. People get by on government rations, subsisting on a diet of highly processed foods. Everyone is miserable, and at any moment their discontent might spill over into a riot. The only people who seem to be happy, who are able to live with any sort of dignity, are a select few, the wealthy and the powerful. Only they can get passes to stay out after curfew. Only they can afford anything like real food. While the huddled masses wither down below, the elite enjoy lives of frivolity, full of computerized diversion and an egocentric preoccupation with identity.
What was your name again?
Charles.
Charles what?
Just Charles. It's perfectly legal.
So Avery and I are both birds. I am a cardinal and Avery is a blue jay.
Fortunately, there is one escape for the meek, for the downtrodden. If life ever gets too hard, one can always elect for state-assisted suicide, a calm, peaceful euthanasia, complete with the music of your choosing and soothing images of how the world used to be. I know all this might sound a little too crazy to believe, but this is the world of Soylent Green, the distant future of 2022. From 1973, directed by Richard Fleischer and starring Chuck Heston, Chuck Connors, Leigh Taylor-Young, and Edward G. Robinson, Soylent Green is one of those films I think is ripe for being re-embraced. Out of all our dystopian fiction, I think Soylent Green best captures the bleak doomerism of Western decay. Where in 1984 or Brave New World, one might entertain a certain perverse admiration at such clockwork methods of control, the world of Soylent Green is largely one of chaos, of civilization hanging on by a thread. There's the sense that no one is really in charge, or that no one really knows what they're doing. There's a sense that the bulk of humanity are treated by the state as something like a neglected house pet.
The supply of Soylent Green has been exhausted.
At the core of Soylent Green is a detective story. In the near future, ecological disaster and overpopulation have put society in a state of collapse. A wealthy board member of the Soylent Corporation is murdered in his high-rise apartment. Detective Robert Thorne, played by Charlton Heston, is sent to investigate and eventually uncovers the truth that those little green bars everyone's been eating, that are supposedly made out of plankton, are actually made out of people.
Soylent Green is people!
Heston, as Detective Thorne, is a charmingly cynical, morally gray character, his station in life not too far removed from the ragged, desperate public he's charged with keeping under control. While first investigating the board member's murder, he's less concerned with what happened to the man than he is the rare sight of air conditioning, of running water, soap, bourbon. He casually steals a number of these luxuries from the deceased and takes them home with him. The impression we're left with is that in this world, even authority is falling apart. Society is fraying at every corner. Even the elite have to buy their food from a sort of grimy basement lockup. Some women in this dystopian future consign themselves to a kind of indentured prostitution, owned by landlords and offered as concubines to the wealthy tenants of their high-rise apartments. The women are even referred to as furniture. The film never makes it clear to what extent these women may have been forced into their role as furniture, but I get the sense that these women take on the role by choice, to the extent that choice is possible in a dystopian hellhole. While receiving mixed to generally favorable reviews upon release, I want to draw attention to one of the more negative reviews from the time. Penelope Gilliatt of The New Yorker writes, "This pompously prophetic thing of a film hasn't a brain in its beanbag. Where is democracy? Where is the popular vote? Where is women's lib? Where are the uprising poor who would have suspected what was happening in a moment?" I think what Penelope is asking here is, where are the tenets of liberalism to rescue this society in decay, while either ignoring or not realizing that it's exactly liberalism that resulted in this particular flavor of dystopia in the first place? The social liberalism of women's lib and an educated public is predicated on the economic liberalism of expansion and consumption and free-flowing capital, all of which only functions so long as we have the resources, but which the world of Soylent Green hasn't enough of. Where goes our comfort and idle time, so goes our loftier notions of what the world could or should be. There's not much time for women's lib when you're too busy thinking about where your next meal is going to come from. Cannibalism, then, isn't just an eerie premonition of a world in dire straits, but an effective metaphor for the pitfalls of capitalist oligarchy. Great swaths of the poor and destitute left to eat each other to perpetuate the comfort of an increasingly powerful elite. As much as terms like liberal and capitalism might inspire a certain knee-jerk partisanship, I think the film maintains a rather bipartisan appeal in that it leaves the solution for preventing or curing its dystopia up to the viewer. The viewer might posit a solution in total communist upheaval, in staunch conservatism, or in something else entirely. It's a film that doesn't offer so much a prescription for change as it does invite the viewer to ask questions and to arrive at their own conclusions. For the characters in Soylent Green, revolution seems to be the furthest thing from their minds. The most they dare hope for is to maybe roll back the clock a generation or two, back to supermarkets, to a 9-to-5 workday and a state of general material convenience. They've witnessed firsthand the failings of modernity, and yet modernity is all they know. It's all they have to cling to. Returning to that review by Penelope Gilliatt a moment. Where is democracy, she says. Where is the popular vote? Where is women's lib, etc., etc.? The thing that makes Soylent Green so timeless is that its moments of humanity, of kindness, exist within the moral framework created by the fictional world. When Detective Thorne first meets Cheryl, the furniture girl, he's the furthest thing from chivalrous, later using her for sex in a cold, transactional sort of way. But then later, from this cold and transactional attitude, blossoms a real tenderness and affection for one another. Thorne literally steps over people everywhere he goes, and yet he still tries to do the right thing within the limited constraints of his society. If change was just a matter of conventional Hollywood morality coming to the rescue in the form of some enlightened proletariat rebellion, it would only undermine the depiction of what a demoralizing effect such a society would have on people. Even by the end of the movie, as Heston is carried away, screaming that Soylent Green is people, there's no telling that anyone is actually going to believe him, or worse, that they would even care. The horror isn't just that humanity has been reduced to cannibalizing one another, but that they might just be so desperate and demoralized that they would accept it. It's a common theme throughout the film that anyone who does discover the truth of Soylent Green ends up tormented by it. The board member from the Soylent Corporation accepts his murder with resignation. The priest whom he's told the secret to is left a quivering mess. It's the truth of Soylent Green that finally compels Saul Roth, played by Edward G. Robinson, to end his own life. Soylent Green was Robinson's last major role on film, and I think it was a pretty good one to go out on. Robinson is the sentimental heart of the film. More than anything, it's his relationship with Heston's Thorne that shows us there is still light in the dark, that there is still something about humanity worth preserving.
I love you, Thorne.
I love you so.
Saul lives and works alongside Thorne as what's called a book, a kind of researcher and record keeper. Unlike Thorne, he's still old enough to remember the world the way it used to be. He remembers what it is they've lost exactly. All the books, in fact, are quite old, reinforcing the idea that knowledge and wisdom itself are passing out of existence. It's the scene where Saul goes to be euthanized that so much of the film comes into focus, where we are shown the full depravity of the world of Soylent Green. In a world where life is cheap and dehumanizing, death by state-assisted suicide is delivered with ritualistic reverence. While you're lying on your deathbed waiting for the poison to take effect, they play you your favorite music set to nature footage of vast uncrowded landscapes. Death is propped up as the ultimate freedom. The state makes life unlivable, offers an escape in death, and then turns the body into Soylent Green, the cycle perpetuated on and on.
They're making our food out of people. Next thing they'll be breeding us like cattle for food. You gotta tell them. You gotta tell them.
Promise, Tiger. I promise. I'll tell the exchange.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell them. Soylent Green is people!
Soylent Green. Is it Soylent fact or Soylent fiction? Is it a premonition of the future or a monument to the present? From 1973 to the far-flung future of 2022, Soylent Green is people, and people are Soylent Green. If you like stories like Soylent Green, stories about dystopian hellholes, consider checking out some of my books, some of which are also about dystopian hellholes. You can find a link in the description down below. Other than that, thank you for watching and goodbye.